Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront Updates and some more news for Battlefront 2, because the community transmission for Obi-Wan Kenobi is finally here, with full images of his appearances, his abilities, star cards and all that kind of stuff. Thank you all for tuning in to the live stream. As always, these news live streams are doing really well in terms of viewers, so I'm enjoying them quite a lot, so appreciate you all for tuning in. That's also why these videos tend to be like an hour or two later than normally, since I do the streams and they obviously take up some of the time where I could have been making a video otherwise. Just thought I'd let you know in case you somehow missed the fact that I was streaming due to YouTube's notifications being messed up or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me. And before we get into the actual community transmission, I wanted to quickly highlight that Ben confirmed in the live stream that the third appearance for Obi-Wan, the General Kenobi appearance, will actually be arriving in December instead. So they moved it from January to December, and he confirmed that there will be a small update in December with that skin, as well as some fixes and things like that, which is very good to see, which means that if there's any bugs with Obi-Wan's abilities now when it's released, they're probably gonna be fixed in December, I hope. But let us move on to the actual community transmission and all the juicy details about Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I've probably already shown the two Obi-Wan images on the screen by now, because I know that's what most of you want to see right away. So let's talk about that first, the looks. We have two different skins, or we have the default skin, which is the normal Jedi Master outfit, and then we have the robed skin that will cost 40,000 credits to unlock, both of which arrives next Wednesday. And looks-wise, it's a bit like mixed reception. I think the fact that you take something from a movie, you know, it's bound to not look exactly the same. So I was a bit like jarred at first. Is it good? Is it not good? Is it okay? To me, it kind of looks like they've gone for the young Rebels version of Obi-Wan. That's the one I think it looks the most similar to. It's not spot on with Ewan McGregor, but it's more like this Rebels version, but also merged with a little bit of Ewan. So it's something in between. But I still think it looks pretty good, and on top of that, I think it's pretty hard to judge it before we get to see it in action, as these images tend to look a little bit different than how it looks in the game. So overall, it's not bad, it's not perfect either, I think, but it's pretty good. That's my personal thoughts. Please let me know what you guys think, because I think it depends a lot what you compare it to, simply put. And after all, it's not Ewan McGregor who is voicing him, but it is James Arnold Taylor, so that's something to keep in mind as well. So, continuing, I thought we'd start off with the abilities, as that's something that you guys will obviously be very interested in. There is a pretty long text here talking a bit about the kind of behind the scenes of bringing Obi-Wan to Battlefront 2 that I read about in the stream and discussed it. So, I will leave a link, as always, to the community transmission if you want to read all of these details. So, in terms of the abilities, I guess we start off with the lightsabers, or lightsaber, as he is gonna be the hero that has the most efficiency, both deflecting lightsabers and blasters, as he has an increased stamina pool. And I think if anyone should have that in the game, it's probably Obi-Wan, because he's very good at deflecting, he's very good with his lightsaber overall, so it does make sense that he has more stamina than some other Jedi. But then we go to the actual abilities. All Out Push, which is a powerful force blast in an area directly in front of him, damaging and sending his opponents tumbling backwards. But this ability can be adapted based on the situation, because if you hold down the button, you will actually increase both the range and the width of the ability. So that's quite interesting. They have taken Luke's force push and made something different with it. I'm curious how much that radius and range is gonna actually increase, and how small it is at the start, because charging that up is obviously gonna make you very vulnerable, but I think it's gonna be interesting to see how that works out. And something I'm very curious about is how much damage it's gonna do. I really hope it's gonna do as much damage as Luke's force push, because initially it didn't one-shot specialists or assaults, which meant that it felt very weak, but then they buffed the force push, so I hope this one will be doing 150 damage out of the gate, so you don't need to worry about just knocking people down, because as much as that's cool and all, it's not that helpful except against other heroes. So I think it should one-shot assault specialists and officers that are not boosted in any way. And then we have Defensive Rush, where Obi-Wan will rush forward, swinging his lightsaber, deflecting any attacks and damaging enemies in front of him. This sounds like a really interesting ability, similarly to Race, but I'd imagine maybe he won't be running as fast, since he will be swinging his lightsaber both deflecting attacks and damaging enemies in front of him. And I find that to be quite interesting, because that means you'll probably be able to kill a lot of people with it, since it's not only gonna slash people down in direct contact like Ray's ability does, but it would also deflect it back. So if this works like intended, and hopefully deflection works better than unrelenting advance, I think this could be an extremely helpful ability. And lastly, we have restrictive mind trick, and when you use it, all opponents' abilities in front of Obi-Wan will be disrupted. During this time, no abilities will be available, and this also includes dodges, completely different than Ray's mind trick. And this could be probably very powerful depending on how long it lasts, because a hero without abilities can't really do much. But I'm most excited to be able to use this as infantry, because I feel like as a lightsaber wielder against infantry, if you engage them, they can just vanguard you in the face, they can roll away, and it's incredibly hard to hit someone who rolls. But now you can actually counter that by simply using this. And anyone who cannot roll is really easy to hit with a lightsaber, and at the same time they won't be able to vanguard you in the face for 300 damage. So if you combine this one with, let's say, well, defensive rush or all-out push, that's a really good way to not have to worry about being taken out while you use those abilities. So I'm very excited to see how they work, and if they work as intended, because if they do, I think this is gonna be very powerful. And then we have the star cards, which are a bit like expected at the beginning. We have one that increases the maximum health regeneration, and one that gives him health from troopers and heroes, which is the same as Grievous and most other heroes have. And then we have one that reduces the stamina drain from attacks and blocking, which I'm not sure if he will need, considering he's supposed to have like the most stamina in the game, but we'll see. And then we have one for the all-out push that will give it a longer range but reduce its damage. And I think this all comes down to how much damage it does. If it's gonna be the matter of one-shotting or not one-shotting, I don't think it's worth switching it out. But otherwise, potentially for hero game modes, it could be good. And then the next one reduces the charge-up time for all-out push, could also be helpful. And then there's one that increases the restrictive mind trick for a longer time. This one I think could be extremely handy, and it's probably one of those I want to unlock first. And also one that increases the range of this restrictive mind trick. And lastly, we have 2 star cards for the defensive rush ability. One which increases the lightsaber hit damage, and one that increases the deflected bolt damage. So if you have both of those, you'll probably wreck anyone who's in front of you. So yeah, just like with Grievous, I don't feel like there is one given star card that everyone's gonna use, but there might be a couple of different combinations that will be good depending on which game mode you play or your playstyle. And then we have the full list of voice lines that you will be hearing, some of which you've already seen in the previous community transmissions, but some of the highlights are of course, "Hello there, when I cut you in half I should have aimed for your neck instead. Let's avoid any of General Skywalker's techniques, shall we?" And similarly, and even one that references Bosk directly by saying "Trandoshans, always so touchy." I'm very excited to hear that one in action. As for victory poses, we have these 4, but without seeing them on pictures, they don't really say much. But for emotes, we have "Hello there, only a Sith deals in absolutes, the strongest defense is a swift and decisive offense, and your move." So we got at least 3 out of 4 prequel memes in there, which is very good to see. I'm excited to hear about 1,000 hello there's on the Battlefront after the 28th. Milestones, some simple ones: hit 30 enemies with defensive rush, defeat 30 enemies with all-out push, and hit 30 enemies with the restrictive mind trick ability. And lastly, like I mentioned, you do have the epic appearance with his iconic Jedi robes for 40,000 credits or 1,000 crystals. And lastly, of course, the 212th attack battalion that arrives with him. We didn't get any screenshot of them in this case, but a nice little background story here about the 212th if you didn't already know, well, what they did, which battles they were in, and similarly. But yeah, and also to remind you, I am playing Geonosis and Obi-Wan tomorrow at the capture event over at DICE, so if you have any things in particular that you want me to capture that might not be obvious, feel free to leave a comment below, and I'll make sure to include as much as I possibly can. Ben did also confirm that we might get to see the December skin tomorrow, and if that's the case, of course I'll make a video on that. I'm hoping to get some time in arcade as well, so that I can show Grievous skin, Obi-Wan skins, all of his abilities, emotes, on all that kind of stuff. So that's the goal, so I have it kind of in like a closed environment where I don't have to worry about standing in the back of the map or dying instantly from getting stomped by well, ATTs are on the same team, but you get my point. I hope I get some time in arcade so I get some controlled footage showing off, and then of course I will get some, hopefully, heroes versus villains and Geonosis gameplay with Obi-Wan. That's the goal for tomorrow. And then the gameplay, just to remind you, will be coming next week. Ben has confirmed trailer is coming next week, and our gameplay is being published after the trailer. So you don't need to ask about when I can publish it, because it will be after the trailer. That's all you need to know. And as soon as I can give you a specific time and date, I will do that. But that is all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.